I would say about 75% of the plants and equipment you see in my tanks have paid for themselves at this point. Today we're going to be talking about how to grow plants for profit. Hey, what is up guys? Calem or Kalem's Fish Tanks, and in today's video, like I mentioned, we're talking plants for profit. Now if you find this video helpful, make sure to drop a like down below, but let's get started. Now this didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of learning and experimenting, and I'm still doing it today, but hopefully this video will act as a shortcut to give you guys a little bit of a head start. This all started in about 2015 when I had stumbled across the Green Machine's YouTube videos, and I wanted tanks exactly like theirs. Unfortunately, I had a really low budget, so I couldn't really replicate it, and I didn't have any sorts of income. So I learned how to make money from this hobby, and I'm still doing it today, and I'm going to give you guys some tips. Now today I do have a website which makes sales a little bit easier on plants. I'll put a link down below in the description if you're looking for plants in Canada, but that's not the important part. I would say about 80% of my sales are still locally, whether it's Kijiji, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, or fish clubs. These are all great places to start, and there will always be someone locally looking for plants. Now I'm not going to teach you guys how to create ads and list them all over the place. This video is mainly going to be about how I would set up a plants for profit tank and what plants I would choose to make this thing profitable. Now a little bit of a warning, don't quit your day job. You're not going to make a fortune, or at least you probably won't. This is just a way to help a little bit with the expenses of your hobby. So the question that always comes with planted tanks and plants for profit is, do you need CO2? The answer is no. Do I recommend it though? Yes, if you can afford it. Now, it'll make your plants grow faster, allowing you to make more profit. Now, if you can't afford it, no problem. You don't need CO2 at all. But what I would recommend doing is with the money you make from your plants for profit, you put that towards a CO2 system. To speed up the process and the amount of money you can make in a low-tech tank, I'd also recommend breeding some sort of fish, whether that's a strain of fancy guppies or some kind of cherry shrimp. This will help increase the profit from the tank and speed up the purchasing of a CO2 system, which will really take your plants for profit setup to the next level. Now let's talk a little bit about setup. The limiting factor on how fast and how well you can grow plants is going to be your light. Most of these plants I'm going to mention today aren't going to need CO2, but it will just speed things up. If you have a low budget, I'd recommend starting with a smaller tank. This will make it much easier to give your tank a good amount of light without spending a lot of money. I'm going to recommend these guys, desk lamps. I've used these things for years. I've made so many plants for profit tanks with just these. Anything under 10 gallons will work well with just one of them, but 2 of these is what I'd recommend on a 10 gallon. I've got little grow bulbs in here which work perfect for plants and keep things growing really fast. And these are pretty cheap too. I think with the desk lamp and the bulb it's about $25. Price on a good light for a larger tank really starts to add up, so I'd recommend starting small because you can use something cheap like these. For example, if you're going to do a 40 breeder for a tanks for profit, the light to get down to the bottom and to spread throughout the whole tank is going to cost you a lot more money. So I'd recommend starting small with something like a 5.5 or like a 7.5 gallon cube, which I have behind me here. One of the biggest keys for plants for profit is picking easy plants. When you pick easy plants, more people are going to be able to grow them, leading to more customers. Now you can also have harder to grow plants, but I'd recommend having the majority of the species you keep being easy ones because you'll just be able to sell them to the highest amount of people. So the first 2 plants I'm going to talk about are 2 of my favorite. These are crypticorns and Java fern. Now, I don't mention Anubias because I find it's really hard to keep this plant algae free, and you don't want to sell people algae ridden plants. They won't be too happy. Now both of these plants, crypts and Java fern, take a while to get going, so you're going to need to be a little bit patient, but once they do, they propagate like crazy. Now you can use some commonly available crypts, for example like I do. I mainly grow crypt undulata red, but you can also choose some fancier varieties, things like Hutteroi or green gecko, and there's a bunch of different species of crypts out there if you want to make a bit more of a profit. For Java fern, there's 2 specifically that I'd recommend, and that is the trident Java fern and the narrow leaf Java fern. These are both really easy to grow, but the thing about these is aquascapers really love them. These make a great effect in an aquascape, so every once in a while you'll find someone trying to set up a tank who wants a ton of this stuff, making them great plants for profit plants. What everyone's saying, but Calem, crypts and Java fern are so slow. Okay, I've got some more suggestions. You want something that grows a little faster? I get it. So I'm going to recommend some stem plants now. The two main ones, the two easiest ones, are Hygrophila polysperma and Limnophilia sessiflora. These two are absolute weeds and are going to grow really fast, and you can just keep throwing these up online, and hopefully there will be enough people to sell them to. You may have to throw out a bit of these every once in a while, but these are great plants for profit plants because they are so fast growing. There's also a couple different cool varieties of the Hygrophila polysperma that you can make a bit more money off of. Things like Hygrophila polysperma rosanervig, which is a really cool one, which is one I still haven't kept yet, but I really want to. Now, if you are doing a tank with CO2, I'd recommend some different stems. These ones may grow too fast for you, and you may not want to keep up with all that maintenance. So I can recommend different species of Rotella rotundifolia, things like H-Raw or Colorata. I don't know how to pronounce it, but those two are both great sellers, as well as Ludwigia palustris. Any of those bright red, easier to grow stem plants will sell really well for you. Those are two I would recommend having CO2 with because in low tech conditions they both will grow really slow and the growth won't be as nice either. Now my personal favorite plant to grow for profit, and the one I sell the most of, is Bucephalandra. These plants are super beautiful and everyone loves them. The great thing about Bucephalandra is when they're grown immersed, you can sell them for a bit more money to make a bit more profit. They're also pretty easy, so a lot of people can do them. I recommend them to people with smaller tanks because they'll have enough light. But yeah, these are a great option. They're also going to take a while to get going. You'll have to think of these as a little bit of an investment because they'll take a while till you get a good clump where you can start consistently taking trimmings off of. But they are a really great option. If you want to learn how to grow Bucephalandra, I'll put a link up in, I think it's this corner. I think I got it right that time. If you want to check out how I grow my Bucephalandra and how you can start growing your own. And my final recommendation is mosses. Whether you just want to do basic Java moss and sell, big clumps of that, or even fancier mosses like Physidens or Ricardia. These are also great options for plants for profit tank. There will be tons of shrimp breeders interested in these. So now let's talk about some plants I would avoid. The first off being floaters. Floaters just grow way too fast, and after a while you sell them to one person and then the next person may just give them away for free. They're too fast and a ton of people have them. What I would recommend doing is, if you want to keep floaters because you like them, I'd recommend throwing in your extras with orders as kind of like a freebie to get people to come back. The next thing I'm going to recommend avoiding is difficult to grow plants. These plants, it's hard to find people who keep them. It's a very niche hobby, and the chance people are looking for your rare plant is very low. So I recommend avoiding them. If you want to keep a couple, go for it. I do too. But I wouldn't recommend putting all your eggs in the rare, inexpensive, and difficult to grow plant basket because you're going to have a hard time finding customers. Now, if you found this video helpful so far, please make sure to drop a like down below. I'd really appreciate it. And let me know what you guys think. Did this help you? And are you going to start a plants for profit tank for yourself? That pretty much wraps up everything I wanted to talk about. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was Kalem's Fish Tanks. Peace.